A warm welcome to all the viewers for the course Strength of Materials. Myself Thiapal, Assistant Professor of Department of Mechanical Engineering, JIS College of Engineering, is going to give a detailed lecture on Module 5, that is torsion in circular shaft. And today in this particular lecture I am going to cover up that is the torsion that has been assumed in a thin wall tubes and also torsion on non-circular section. So in the previous lecture, whatever I have discussed, it is all related to your circular section, because I have discussed about the various cylindrical shaft. It is maybe of thin wall. We have discussed about the design of the shaft. We have discussed the several combination of the shaft, and this combination can be of series also, it can be of parallel also. So everything has been covered up today. Just I'm going to discuss some portion where the torsion in thin wall tubes and also torsion on non-circular section. So before we start the lecture, let's have a look at the content. So the content first we are starting with, that is the torsion in your thin wall tube. Then we'll be discussing about the angle of twist in thin wall tube. Then we'll be discussing the torsion of non-circular section. And then we are going to discuss about when a shaft subjected to combined bending moment and twisting moment. So far we have separately came across what is bending moment, what is twisting. But today we are going to discuss about this shaft when it is subjected to both the combined moment. One is your bending moment, another is your twisting moment. And finally, we are going to talk about the combined effect of bending and twisting over the shaft. So if this two movement at the same time when it has been given over a particular shaft, then what is the combined effect that is occurring, that we are going to study in this particular lecture. And this is finally the shaft that has been subjected to combine the axial force and torsional moment. And then we are going to discuss the theories of failure for shaft design. Well, already in the second module, theories of failure, I have already discussed the 5 different principles that is associated with theories of failure, because every researcher must know what is the theory behind the failure of that material or that particular element, design element. So this is finally we are going to discuss, that is the theories of failure for shaft design. So now let's move to the portion that is torsion in thin wall tube. You can see this is a tube, isn't it? You can see this is a particular tube and the radius has been considered as R, and dV is the volume of this particular tube, and T is the thickness, and D is the distance that you are considering here. So how you are going to calculate for the torsion in thin wall tube? So in case of thin tube, the shear stress are assumed uniform across the thickness. And let us consider R to be the mean radius of the tube and small t as the thickness, that is the wall thickness. Again I am repeating, in thin tubes, shear stress are assumed to be uniform cross section and the thickness uniform across the thickness, and let us consider R to be the mean radius of the tube and T is the wall thickness, and let us consider the tube is subjected to a torque that has been considered as capital T. So shear stress that has been induced in the tube, it has been given by the formula, that is shear stress is equal to torque by polar section modulus. You can see torque is equal to, shear stress is equal to torque by polar section modulus. So this is T and ZP is equal to 2 pi r square into T. So after putting the value, what you are getting is that. So this is the equation that is required for your stress. That is T is equal to tau is equal to T by ZP. So now if you put tau into T, that is equal to T by 2 into pi into r square. That is equal to T by 2 into AM. So AM is what? AM is the area bounded by the mean radius. AM is equal to area that has been bounded by your mean radius. Okay. So now what you can see is that tau into T is equal to T by 2 into AM, which is equal to constant. That is your shear flow. So if I consider the torsion in a thin walled tube, then initially you need to know that in thin tubes, shear stress are assumed to be uniform across the thickness. And R has to be considered, capital R has been considered as the mean radius of the tube, and small t is also considered to be as wall thickness. So let the tube that is subjected to torque is equal to T. So shear stress induced in the tube is equal to tau, that is equal to torque by polar section modulus, and this tau into T is equal to T by 2 pi r square. From there you have got T by 2 AM. AM is your area bounded by mean radius. Now we are discussing about the shear flow. Shear flow is represented by the term small f, and that is equal to your tau into T, and this tau into T is also represented as T by 2 AM, and this is equal to your constant. And hence from this particular thing you can come to a conclusion, that is stress induced for 1 into thickness 1 is equal to stress induced in 2 material into thickness 2. So this is also another concept that you have developed from this particular equation. Now if your thickness of the thin walled tube varies along the circumference, again I am repeating, if thickness of the thin walled tube varies along the circumference of the thin walled tube, then maximum shear stress will be developed at the section of minimum wall thickness. Again I am repeating, maximum shear stress will be developed at the section of minimum wall thickness. So torsion in the thin wall tube is none other than the portion. If the thickness varies along the circumference, then maximum shear stress will be developed at the section of minimum wall thickness. Okay. Now we will be discussing about the angle of twist in case of thin wall tube. So if your theta is the angle of twist over the entire length of L, then theta will be given as du by dt. What is du? Du is your, that U is basically your strain energy in the thin wall tube, and T is the torque applied. Again you know that du is the strain energy that has been represented by tau square by 2g into dV. Tau square by 2g into dV. And you know that tau into T, that is the thickness, is equal to torque by 2 area mean. And from there you have got the value of this tau square that has been represented by your T square by 4 AM square into T square. And from there you are also able to know that the change in volume is none other than ds into T into L, that is area into length. So finally when you are finding out the value for du, that is your strain energy that has been stored in the thin wall tube, it is equal to T t square by 4am square into t square into ds into t into L by 2g. So this is the entire thing about the angle of twist in thin wall tube. So finally from this particular slide we can see that how you're going to calculate the angle of twist in case of thin wall tube. Hope it is clear to all of you. And along with the angle of twist, you know how to calculate the strain energy that has been represented by du, that is equal to t square by 4 area mean square into your thickness square into ds into t into L, that is the volume, by your 2 into g, that is the twice the modulus of rigidity. Now if it has been asked to you what is the total strain energy, that means you have to integrate it to obtain the total strain in this, to get this one. And finally you have achieved the total strain energy as this one. That is T square, that is the torque square into length by 8 into area of the mean thin wall cylinder square into modulus of rigidity into summation of what, del S by T. And from this particular equation theta, you know the value, that is the angle of twist, is your what, du by dt. So du value is known to you, dt value is known to you. So you have, after putting all the value for the this particular term, you have got next dimension. Now ACE, what is this ACE? It is the perimeter of the mean line. That means you are considering a thin wall and it has got a mean line, that is ACE is the perimeter. Now for thin circular tube, if you need to find out the angle of twist, then it is represented by theta, which is equal to torque into length by modulus of rigidity into polar moment of inertia. And theta is always represented by radian. So IP is your polar moment of inertia for thin tube, and IP is equal to what? You just write down here IP, that is I suffix P, it is equal to your 2 pi r cube tube. So this is the formula that you have to remember for your polar moment of inertia. Is that clear? So let's solve a numerical with this particular concept. So in this numerical it has been told that is a thin wall member of 1000 millimeter long, which is having a cross section in the figure. Let us show the figure. Okay. And here it has been told that determine the maximum torque which can be carried by the section if the angle of twist is limited to 10 degree. So what you can see is that a thin wall member of 1000 millimeter long, which has the cross section, you can see the portion here, it is length is 40 millimeter, the thickness is 2 millimeter. Until this much portion it has been got as 18 millimeter, the dia you can see. And it has been asked to you that you have to determine the maximum torque which can be carried by this section if the angle of twist is limited, and that is to 10 degree. So what will be the maximum shear stress when the maximum torque is applied? So you have to find out the value of maximum shear stress that can be obtained when maximum torque is applied. So what you have to do is that just simply take the modulus of rigidity value as 80 gigapascal, and the figure has been shown you. It is a thin wall membrane of 1000 meter long and has a cross section as it has been shown in the figure. So what you have to do, it has been given in gigapascal. Your first conversion of the unit from gigapascal to Newton per millimeter square. So 80 gigapascal you have converted into 80 to 10 to the power 3 Newton per millimeter square. And area bounded by mean line, that has been denoted by AM, that is 974.47 millimeter square. That can be obtained, you know, the area of that mean thin wall cylinder. And the angle of twist, it has been asked to you, and you know the formula for angle of twist, which is represented by theta, and it has been denoted by, that is T into L by 4 into area mean square into modulus of rigidity into S by T. Now perimeter bounded by mean line. Okay, perimeter has been bounded by mean line, which is the summation of S. So if you just have the value for the summation of S, then it is 40 into 2, because 40 length is in the lower side also, in the upper side also. So 40 into 2 plus pi into 18. 18 is what? The diameter that has been considered. So ultimately you have obtained the value, that is 136.55 millimeter. Now you just consider the thickness to be equal to 2 millimeter. So finally you need to know what is the angle of twist. So after putting the angle of twist, you can see that theta value is limited to 10 degree. Or if you convert it into the radian, the angle of twist is 0.1745 radian. Now it has been asked to you that in this equation, that is theta is equal to 2 into 1000 by 4 into the m into your gigapascal of this polar moment of the modulus of rigidity into your summation of S by T. So after putting it here, you have got the another thing, that is T is equal to 0.1745 into 8 into 974.47 square into 80 into 10 to the power cube. So from there you have obtained the torque value, which is equal to 776.64 Newton meter. This is your torque value, that is 776.64 Newton meter. So when you need to calculate the maximum shear stress, you know that tau max is equal to your T into area mean twice the area mean into minimum thickness. So minimum thickness has been considered as 2 because that is only your thickness of that particular wall. So the answer that you have received for maximum shear stress, that is 199.30 Newton per millimeter square. Okay. Now, so far of this lecture or of this particular module, whatever thing I have discussed, it is all related to some sort of circular section. So whether you have considered a cylinder or the shaft, all are circular in section. But from right now, we are going to have a look for the torsion of a non-circular section. That means in circular section, you have got polar moment of inertia, you have got polar section modulus, again you have got the angle of twist in different section, different way. But right now we will be little bit different from all other thing, because today in this particular content we are also going to discuss of torsion for a non-circular section. So now let's have a look for the torsion of a non-circular section. So in non-circular section, I mean to say non-circular section are torsionally weak, as because the shear stress distributed is non-symmetrical about the center. In circular section, it was symmetric, shear distribution was also in a proper manner, But in case of non-circular section, torsionally it is weak as shear stress distributed is non-symmetrically about the center. And such section when subjected to torque, it gets wrapped and their plane section before twisting does not remain plane after twisting. So if you just remember of the assumption of the torsional of a circular shaft, I have already mentioned you that whenever you are performing any twisting, the plane section before twisting will remain plane section after twisting also, because this is one of the most important assumption that has been considered to form the torsional equation for your circular shaft. But if you come to for the torsion of a non-circular portion, then I must say that is when any sort of section is subjected to torque, basically it get wrapped and their plane section before twisting does not remain plane after twisting also. So you can see the basic difference of torsion for a circular section and for a non-circular section. So non-circular section are torsionally weak as shear distribution is not at all symmetric about the center. Second of all, the such section when subjected to torque, they basically get wrapped and their plane section before twisting does not remain plane after twisting also. So you can see how it is occurring here. Next, if you consider a rectangular shaft, okay, just have a look at this figure. And if you consider a rectangular shaft and it has been subjected to torque and the width has been considered as B, which is greater than the depth D. So depth, it has been considered smaller in respect to your width. So in this particular section, what it is happening, you can see. Just have a look. This is the breadth B. This is the depth D. And here you have given a torque at this point T. So this is your center of this particular shaft. So you can see maximum stress has been obtained where at the extreme fiber of the shaft. So if you look at this particular figure from the front view, you can see how the shear stress distribution is occurring. It is not at all proportional in every respect. Next, we are talking about the torsion of a non-circular section. So again, I will be telling that if you consider a rectangular shaft, then maximum shear stress is developed on the medial surface of the longer side, but maximum distance from the center is at corner. But here the stress at the corner is always equal to 0. So again I am telling, if you consider a rectangular shaft, then maximum shear stress is developed on the medial surface of the longer side. But maximum the distance from the center is at the corner. Means from center, if you point out the corner, it is having the maximum distance. And in there you can see that stress at corner is always 0. So stress at the corner will be 0. Maximum stress will be obtained where? In the middle portion of the longer side. So this thing you have to remember, that where torsion is basically occurring maximum and where torsion is occurring, I mean to say the maximum and minimum shear stress is developed for the non-circular section. It has been calculated here. Okay. Again, I am repeating, maximum shear stress is developed at the middle surface of the longer side, and minimum stress is 0 at the corner of the shaft. So just have a look, the maximum stress, that is equal to T into alpha into BD square, where breadth is greater than your depth. Alpha is the constant which is depending upon B by D ratio. And B by D is equal to always 1 if the section is square. So you have to remember this one also. And alpha value has been treated as 0.208, and if alpha value is 0.208 and tau max occurs at middle of both the side. So this is the main basic concept for torsion of a non-circular section. And if you want to know the angle of twist over the length, then it is denoted by theta is equal to T into L by beta into G into B into dq, and where beta is your constant which depends upon B by D ratio, and for square section B by D is equal to 1 and beta is equal to 1 by 7.11. So you have to remember this particular thing, that if you are using torsion of a non-circular section and you need to find out the angle of twist over the entire length L, then theta is given by T into L by beta into G into B into dq, and this T is what? Torque. L is the total length, beta is the constant which depends upon by B by D ratio, and if you are considering the non-circular section as a square, then your B by D will be represented by 1 and your beta value will be represented by 1 by 7.11. Hope from this particular thing it is clear to you. Now let's move to the next slide. Now shaft, if it is subjected to combined bending moment and twisting moment, how it will work? So first thing that you have to keep in mind, that when the shaft is subjected to combined bending moment and twisting moment, the maximum stresses induced in the shaft are due to the combined effect of shear stress and bending stress. That is, shear stress as tau and bending stress as sigma b. Now what it will happen? What will be the effect of pure bending? Now let's have a look for the effect of pure bending. So this is the shaft, and you can see this is the y-axis, this is your z-axis, and a bending moment has been given here. So bending normal stress you can obtain maximum at this portion, at the outer section. So maximum bending stress that can be obtained as sigma b is equal to m by z, and its value is equal to 32 m by pi by dq. So this is the maximum bending stress that has been obtained, that is m by z, which is equal to 32 into m by pi into dq. So here you can see what is the effect of maximum bending stress due to pure bending. Next you can see this is the shaft. This is the shaft, and you can see effect of pure torsion. So this torque has been given to you. So torsional shear stress is obtained where? This is tau max. This is also tau max. That is the maximum shear stress is obtained at the two extreme outer surface. And you can see this shear stress is occurring here due to this torque. So maximum shear stress is obtained by what formula? That is tau max is equal to T by Zp, and finally you get the value as 16 into T by pi dq. So this is the final effect of pure torsion. Now combined effect of bending and twisting moment. So under the effect of bending moment and torsional moment, which is represented by capital M and capital T, the thing that I would like to say is that stress at the extreme bottom and the top surface construction of an element is shown in the figure. So just have a look here. That is, this is the maximum shear stress, that is 16 into T by pi d cube, and this is your stress, that is 32 m by pi d cube. So finally you have obtained sigma x value as 32 m by pi d cube, sigma y value is equal to your 0, and your maximum or the stress that has been induced in xy direction, it is equal to 16t by pi d cube. Now we are going to have a calculation for principal stress in a material, and it has been denoted by sigma 1 or sigma 2, whatever may be. The equation is this one. So sigma 1 is equal to your 16 into pi d cube, capital M plus root over of m square plus t square, and sigma 2 is what? Pi into 16 by pi d cube into m minus m square plus t square. And if you want to talk about the principal shear stress, that is the tau max, which is represented by sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2. So ultimate, if you need to know the value for the tau max, that is the maximum shear stress, then it has been represented by 16 pi d cube into root over of m square, that is the moment square, plus bending. I mean to say maximum shear stress is obtained by 16 by pi d cube into root over of bending square plus twisting square. Now what is the equivalent bending moment? It is that bending moment which basically produces the same maximum normal stress as produced by the combined effect of bending and twisting. Now if AB is the equivalent bending moment, then the maximum stress produced by it will be, that is sigma is equal to 32 me by pi d cube. So finally when you calculate the value for me, that is your equivalent bending moment, then it is known as half into bending moment plus root over of bending moment plus twisting moment. Now it is that torque which basically produces the same maximum shear stress as produced by the combined effect of bending and twisting. And if TE is the equivalent twisting moment or the equivalent torque, then the maximum shear stress produced will be, that is tau max, which is equal to 16 into TE by pi d cube, and 16 TE by pi d cube is equal to what? When you are solving the equation, you are getting the torque, equivalent torque, as root over of bending moment square plus twisting moment square. Now if shaft subjected to combined axial force and torsional moment, then what you have to do, you have to consider a shaft and it has been subjected to an axial force and torsional moment as shown in the figure. So your effect of axial force, it is denoted by sigma d due to normal pressure P. Then you are getting stress is equal to load per unit area, and from here you have got the value as 4P by pi d square. Now effect of torsion, you know, tau max, that is the shear stress, is equal to torque by your polar section modulus, which is equal to 16T by pi d cube. Now if I talk about the combined effect of the direct force and torsion, then you can get the principal stress, which can be represented by sigma 1 or sigma 2. The ultimate value that you are getting, it is, that is sigma d by 2 plus minus root over of sigma d by 2 whole square plus tau sigma xy square. Now finally we came to discuss about the theories of failure for shaft design. You know that for design of the shaft, you should know what is the theories behind the failure. So first theory is the maximum principal stress theory that I've already discussed in my previous lecture under the theories of failure. Then we have discussed the maximum principal strain theory also. We have also discussed the maximum shear stress theory. We have also discussed the maximum strain energy theory. And finally, maximum shear stress energy theory. So whatever may be the reason behind the failure of any sort of design shaft or any sort of machine element, the theories of failure are same. That is maximum principal shear stress theory, maximum principal strain theory, maximum shear stress theory, maximum strain energy theory, and maximum shear strain energy theory. So this is the ultimate theories that are associated with your failure for any sort of design element or shaft design. So here I conclude my video. So here with this I complete the portion of module 5 which is related to the torsion for circular shaft also, for non-circular shaft also. So thank you viewers for watching the video. Please stay connected with me so that in my upcoming lecture I can describe you about the spring, what are the uses of spring, what are the types of spring, what are the mechanical spring that has been used. We are going to discuss in details about the closed helical spring so that you know that why spring is used, because so that it can absorb your energy and it can release or produce whenever it is need to perform the work. So once again, I'm thanking all of you for watching the video. Thank you very much.